Welcome back to European LCS Studios, where we're about to kick off the second game of this series between Roccat and Vitality. I'm going to double check this and not mess it up this time around. Vitality, they picked red side.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
They actually lied to me earlier. They actually were on blue side, so I'm glad you knew that.
I messed up the first one so badly, I actually gave it to you. It's like no problem.
But this is a big shift now, because what we saw in first draft of the game, the draft from game one, was actually a lot of power picks were left open. We saw the Varus left open. We saw Rengar, Camille, LeBlanc was banned very late into the draft. And that means that Roccat exchanged 2 power picks in favor of 1. So they were able eventually to make the Rengar and Malzahar work, but I actually don't think it was those picks that really did it for Roccat. It was the Sivir and the Azir from Betsy and Hyanan that I felt were the big determining factors in Rockat's success.
I concur, young Vedius Day.
Great. And
Hyanan on his Sivir actually had the highest CS per minute of any AD carry of any game this split.
Wow.
12.1 CS per minute. He got just over 500 in a 41-minute game. I'm going to double-check the number. 504 in a 41-minute game. Now,
that's near perfect last hitting.
I don't expect this to be a, sort of Sivir ban. But, you know, with Vitality being on red side, with the ability to take 2 champions in that first rotation of Phase 1 picks, maybe, they get their hands on Sivir plus X. You know, a pretty safe start to the game. Anyways, we'll find that answer in a moment or two. Maxlaw, gigantic smiles on his face as he played that Rengar relatively well in the mid to late game. Though, I think
he got caught out a few times.
There will be a few gifs of those flash savagery opposite direction plays. And we're looking at the bans Ryze, Shen, Malzahar. This is a little bit more standard than what we saw in the previous game with Gragas, Olaf, Elise also being banned as well. Though Elise not a huge surprise these days.
Yeah. I thought it was quite interesting. We actually saw the Olaf ban directed at Joko, but you can see that a lot of focus for Roccat was to try and get Joko on something that he's not as comfortable on. But then he had a fantastic early game with that Graves, not only getting the first play in mid lane, but then very swiftly transitioning into the top half of the map and setting up Cabochard for success. Unfortunately for Vitality, they couldn't really properly utilize that, and it seems that the jungle shift has actually moved quite a lot.
Just feels like when you look at Vitality, they've got a few problems here and there in terms of remaining as an effective 5-man unit. You know, they have these blips of amazingness. And unfortunately, it doesn't translate. It doesn't keep the ball rolling. First pick Rengar for Maxlaw. He got run around in circles by Joko in game 1. Joko running that Graves. Great dives in the top lane. Loads of pressure. So let's see if Roccat will be more aware, more prepared for that this time around.
Now I would expect Vitality to get themselves an early Jhin here. They have actually locked themselves the power pick in the top lane. Now, you have to bear in mind that Gnar is available. Faxi could look to pick that one up on this rotation. And wow, actually seeing a very early aggressive jungler from Joker once again, so he could be looking for a repeat performance from what we saw from him in game 1. Now, if you're Roccat, it's fascinating. We've actually seen this a lot this week. Jhin moving heavily down in terms of the priority. Champions like Ezreal we saw out from G2, the Sivir in game 1 from Roccat. Ashe we've seen a bit come out as well. It seems that Jhin really hasn't been as prioritized as he previously was.
Yeah, and will Hyanan agree? Into a Renekton, into Elise. This time round, goes for the Jhin. Not going to go for the Sivir. Denying that possibility. And the Gnar reply to Renekton, as you so rightly predicted. Vedius, something that has been played twice by Faxi. 1 game won, 1 game lost. What is the logical reply here for Vitality? ADC and not reveal anything, or try to get your hands on a priority support? I mean, there's a lot available there, so that's tough too.
You could also potentially go for your mid laner right now, and then pinch a few of the mid laners away from Roccat. But the big thing for Betsy is, I'm pretty sure he's confident that he can play both the Victor and the Azir as just safe mids. They can go into pretty much anyone. So the fact that Vitality have just locked in their AD carry, I think is the safe thing to do. And Ezreal is a pick that has been picked often into Jhin because he actually trades very effectively against him. The important thing for Vitality now is to get themselves a strong pushing support. I would not be surprised to see them early prioritize something like a Karma, so they have that pushing power in the bottom lane to best set up for Elise so she can utilize that early power.
Also a pick they have played in the past, something important to keep track of. Roccat had the ability to have pushing lanes in game number 1, but didn't really capitalize on it, or didn't really find themselves in a position. Betsy on that Azir, despite being ganked early, he managed to come back in the mid to late game. You know, early game was really all about Nuke Duck's rise, and that was banned, the very first ban from Roccat. More mid lane champions have been removed from the pool. Syndra and Azir from Vitality. So Betsy's being pinched, whereas AOD is being pinched on Vitality's side as Roccat have taken out Nami and Lulu.
Like, Karma makes the most sense here, I feel, especially with both the Lulu and the Nami ban. Roccat could be looking then maybe for a more aggressive support. Maybe they go towards the Alistar. But no, they're actually going to leave it up. They're actually going to save their support pick for last, which I think is risky because already you can see that Roccat, they have pushing in the top lane. The Nart is very good into the Renekton. He's always going to have that pushing advantage. In the mid lane, they could go for, again, someone, I think with the Azir ban, Victor makes a lot of sense into the Cassio. Early on, you get pushed in. Once you get that upgraded Hex Core, it's just wave clear for days. You have the ability to push. And then in the bottom lane, they can just round things out with a Karma. So this would give Roccat 3 pushing lanes, which is really not what you want when you have an Elise who's always looking to evade, get that deep vision.
Didn't use it in game 1, even though they had the ability to have pushing lanes.
That's very true.
Or is that me being overly harsh?
I think, well, it sucked in the top lane, Renekton into cannon. But in the bottom lane, I mean, Sivir did absolutely fine. The Azir did struggle because of the early first blood that went over. But I think Roccat right now are doing great in the draft. I think that the early game of Vitality is going to be very difficult.
All right, so there we go. Going to swap away last second. Okay, what does Tahm Kench then do to this lane? Malzahar was banned away. What other options does AOD go for? Does he want to take the Karma?
Okay, so the reason why Tahm Kench is actually very good in this comp is... we're going to be starting some fires today. We can get to that a little bit later. We can get to that, but to finish the Tahm Kench pot, he's really great in pick compositions now. Note that a lot of the crowd control in Vitality's comp is single target, the Renekton, the Elise. That means that if a target ever gets caught out of position, you have Wadid to save that. And we have to criticize Maxwell a little bit. He did get caught in game 1, so now Wadid has that ability to provide a little bit more appeal. And he actually has a great mid-game ability to force fights. You put Gnar in your mouth, you flank behind, you get the great flank off, and you can start these engages.
Okay, we'll see how that play works out. Brand Ezreal in the bottom lane. WTF, mate. I know you looked at Brand. I know you talked about Brand because going into IEM a few weeks back, M19, Licrit.
Yeah.
The Brand on the international scene. What do you think of him in the current patch, the current state of the game?
You need to think of Brand very similarly to Zyra. Very aggressive, naturally does a lot of damage in his kit, has the ability to push in lane, but he has the same weaknesses in the sense that he is very squishy, he's very low in mobility, and he's a little bit harder to get that damage down. He's very skill shot based, he can be easily played around.
But what do you think about the context of the team composition?
But the context of, I don't think it makes much sense. I mean, it definitely gives you a lot of early power, and it synergizes nicely with setting up ganks in the bottom lane. But then again, you have to put your focus on the Tahm Kench if that's where you want to try and lock things down. I think that it's very risky because Vitality do have a pretty good team fight composition, but it's a big gamble, and if it falls behind during the laning phase, it's going to really struggle to have an impact in the mid game. All
right, so I'm taking a quick look at Brand competitive history. We've seen it in Korea Challenger, LPL Challenger, the LSPL League. Was played in LMS, actually. Was played in LMS not too long ago. But not a huge amount of performance lately. Of course, Licrit himself still playing that champion over in the LCL. But its debut here in the EU LCS, AOD playing on Brand and looking to insta-give peeps.
After the nerfs to Zyra and Malzahar a few patches ago, I thought the Brand may rise in popularity because he provides a very similar role to what they do. The big thing for him is that he is closer to Zyra in the sense that he has a lot of team fight potential because of his ultimate, and even if he doesn't have many items, the amount of damage that he can throw out is just ridiculous, mainly because of his passive. So if he's able to get 3 stacks of his burn down, the AoE damage that it does is percentage health, which means that no matter what level he is, he's always going to have a lot of team fight value. The question is, how do Vitality force these team fights, right? Like, they actually have no real engage tools.
Flash Cocoon!
Yeah, but then you have Tahm Kench, too. I think that Vitality they drafted very heavily on early pushing lanes, early game dominance, and then they gave away the Gnar. They gave away, or they picked the Cassio and they allowed the Victor to be picked into it. I just think that, I don't think Vitality had the strongest draft, but they had a promising early game one previously. Let's see if they can do it.
Yeah, I mean, that promising early game came from Joko camping the hell out of Cabo's lane. Wadid already eats a Pillar of Flame to the face, and he's got those relic shields to help push this wave out. The race to level 2 currently in favor of Hjarnan and Wadid. AOD and Steelback instantly backing away.
Now, the thing about early game Bran is he actually has really high cooldowns, so every time he uses that Pillar of Flame aggressively, that's the window with which Wadid can look to move up and start trading back with the Brand, and that is what Roccat are using to be able to get themselves this push advantage and the early level 2.
Well, there we go. Hjarnan and Wadid, next minion wave. Next minion should ding that one for them. There we go. So, Steelback and AOD playing a little bit defensive. AOD's second skill point will be into the Seer, so can get that stun combination down. And if he tries to target Hjarnan, obviously Devour helps out. All right, round 2. Is it going to be the same deal? Foxy's in Mega Gnar, got the ability to crunch down and get a small wallop on the stun. Is going to throw the boulder toss, flashes away. Cocoon on the tower, 1 or 2 more hits. First blood to Joko.
Great gank in the top lane. Faxi wasn't even that overextended. He just went into Mega Gnar. He wanted to trade onto Cabo. And Joko took advantage of that. He's pathing again. He just focused on the top side of the map. Looked to make that Udo rotation to get Cabo ahead in this matchup. He wants the Renekton to be pushing into Faxi. And I love this focus in towards the top lane from Vitality. Getting Cabo on these carries and making sure that he's in a position to put Faxi down.
Yeah, but the problem is Faxi should have known that was going to happen. Like,
it's all about that early knowledge. Yeah, but you can't guarantee that he's going to gank top, right? It's very much about, did Roccat have the information of where Joko start? They should have, because they would have seen Cabo clearing out the Raptor camps, right? Faxi should have put that early ward down. A level 3 gank or level 2 gank top is not so uncommon that you shouldn't respect it. In fact, he could have preempted all of that by just dropping a ward in the river, right? Like, yeah. But he didn't. First blood went over to Vitality.
Yeah, this time around it was in Joko's hands. Let's see what he can do with it. Joko had multiple successful ganks in game number 1, helping out Cabo and Nuketa. This time around, I thought he was going to go down to that bottom lane. Instead, though, just clears out the Scuttle Crab, and again could he get in behind Betsy here?
You're just playing with your heart now.
I know, I'm waiting. I'm like,
he's like,
anticipating the play.
But we also have to track Maxlor, because in game 1 he didn't have a huge early game impact.
He had no early game impact.
Yeah, but that is because he is on Renekton, who mainly Renekton? He's on Rengar. He mainly waits for that level 6 mark before he starts making plays. Now, I like this invade from Maxlor because he knows that Betsy has the push in mid right now. He has the support should he need it, and he may very well need it in a second. But he will be able to steal away that camp. But yes, once he gets that level 6 and his lanes aren't at such a massive deficit, perhaps we can see more from Maxlor in the early game.
Yeah, we'll keep our eyes on him. Maxlor making his way to the top lane as we keep jumping down to the bottom lane. AOD on this Brand, very exciting to watch. Every time Pillar of Flame is used, Wadid trades, moves forward to trade aggressively, and Wadid as a player is one of those guys who's kind of got a little bit quiet throughout the spring split. 0 isolated deaths. He's got the 3rd highest proximity to his AD carry, and proximity means how much time he spends within 1500 range, and it's a lot. He's the 3rd highest. He holds Hjarnan's hand, and he's not died alone. He's not died without support, so he's not really getting caught out. But then maybe he's not playing forward. You know, I had this like weird debate because I'm kind of criticizing someone for not giving up a death alone. Surely that's a good thing.
You'd think so. Perhaps he's always dying in honor. He's dying in place of someone who's looking to get caught, and he is the sacrificial lamb. It always makes me wonder why it's a lamb that must be sacrificed rather than a goat, but the reality is, Wadid, he's still, the fact that he's not getting caught out, I think is worth praising him for.
But what is Wadid sort of shining for throughout the split, because it's a player that, again, we haven't spoken a lot about, much like Foxy. You know, two guys on the Roccat squad who just, they're getting a bit bullied. They're not really stepping up to live up to maybe what Roccat wanted them to do.
Well, I don't think right now that the Roccat lineup has really lived up to the expectations of Roccat, given that they have only won one series this split, and it was against Origin, the other struggling team in the European LCS. And it's difficult to really talk about individuals when you're on a team that really just hasn't performed. They have looked weak across the board. They have not only struggled bot, mid, top. Like, there are areas of weaknesses in all of them, and it's really when you have bottom teams going up against other bottom teams that you can start to see some of the potential strengths. You can start to see on an individual level where Roccat do have these strong players. Yeah,
and what a big difference it is when you see Roccat. They win a series against Origin, and now they're 1-0 up against Vitality.
Yep.
Vitality, with the names on that roster, we would have anticipated a higher level of performance. AOD's running out of mana, so you can't really combo that conflagration with anything else. And as it stands, Steel back and AOD down 10 CS in this matchup.
Vaxi learning his lesson. He's like, oh, I better ward my river. Maybe get ganks up. He should be aware that both red and blue are alive. And now Maxlor has reached this level 6 mark too. So this is where we want to start seeing stuff from Maxlor. But Vitality, love this play from Vitality. Look, pushing top, pushing mid, instantly move towards the blue to try and contest.
All right, can Maxlor or Betsy make anything count here? Nukeduck throws down the Miasma, Petrifying Gaze. The trigger is held for now. Nukeduck flash and heal in the mid lane. Decides not to use either. I didn't catch if Joko actually finished off that blue buff on the side. Gonna take a quick look at the cooldown time, and that is fresh. So Vitality pushing lanes, invade and steal blue.
But Nukeduck has lost a lot of HP. The trade-off was Betsy now has very little mana to try and push back Nukeduck. But now, this is a great opportunity for Maxlor. Just pop that ult, look for a gank. Mid lane is pretty low. Maybe they can just burst out Nukeduck, or at the very least get a couple of summoner spells from him. Just like poking the cat right now.
Yeah.
Just love to see a gank from Maxlor.
Let's see what he can do. Thrill of the Hunt, not used particularly effectively in the mid game of the previous match. And Maxlor again, like, his Lee Sin on Thursday had a really weak showing in game 1, but then he found some great kicks as the series played out. It feels like Maxlor's kind of slow to start, strong to finish. That's kind of the vibe as a player. But Roccat, they just completely concede the tower. Foxy's got a teleport available. I don't know if he's going to use it because he might just get dropped down. And tower first blood. That's a little bit awkward.
Yep. You can see that Roccat wanted to try and make a similar play in the bottom half of the map with the invade that you had from Maxlor, setting up good vision around the blue jungle of Vitality. But the minion wave wasn't at the tower. Roccat weren't really in a prime position to set up for this objective. Now mid has been pushed, and the minion wave has hit the tower. Maxlor is making his presence known, but he's actually backed away, and the two members of Vitality are still in the top side, consistently putting pressure down, even onto the tier 2 tower.
Tier 2 tower under pressure from Vitality. Fans applying more pressure to Vitality as Roccat, 65% of the votes. And it's kind of like a more refined version of game 1. Vitality with early game plays thanks to Joko. They get early tower first blood. And now we start to see some of this vision being pushed around. What I do like from Roccat is the vision in that right-hand quadrant in the blue buff area of Vitality. So this is going to allow some information for Roccat to work with. Teleport for Gnar. We can go back to those old school storylines, Vedius, of how do they use the Gnar bar. That's a flash forward. AOD throws down the ultimate, doesn't get enough of a kill. Curtain Call comes out, Steel back. Arcane shifts aggressively, Cocoon onto Wadid. True Shot Barrage, Wadid is still alive! Nobody eats him today.
Fantastic heal from Yarnan to keep his support alive, but it will still result in a tower for Vitality. After taking down the top tier 1, their objective was to take down another outer tower, a very swift move into the bottom. And now they're not even going to lose any damage up topside. Great map movements from Vitality. And you can see their Uda game just seems to be on point. They have a plan in mind. They set up in a way to enact on that plan, and they execute so well. Okay, sure, you don't get a kill, but it doesn't matter because you get all the summoner spells down from the bottom lane, you get yourself a tower, and you extend your gold lead even further.
Also, the context of this game, yes, Victor's going to be exceptionally good at wave clearing, But there was 2 of those champions in the previous game, Sivir and Azir, that allowed Roccat to buy time. Vitality, will they play more aggressively onto Betsy and try to force this mid-outer turret? I'm looking at the mid lane as Nukeduck and Joko temporarily in range.
But we have... Oh, carry on.
No, thank you. Maxwell still not used his ultimate.
Not yet, no. And I think this is worth noting because one of the big differences between a lot of the Korean Rangers that I watch is that they, actually the moment or just before they hit level 6, they've already got a very clear idea in mind of where they want to gank. And even if it doesn't result in anything, you can almost always get a summoner spell out from someone, right? So all they do is they set up vision in their own half of the jungle and they just come through the lane. They just ult through the lane, or they try and come into one of these lane brushes and they just go for it. At the very least, you're going to exert pressure or get some damage down. And I think that there were plenty of windows in the bottom lane in particular where Roccat could have looked to try and force that play. And the fact that Maxwell hasn't tried to make any of that happen is just kind of like, why not? You know, I wonder why he decides not to try, at the very least, make these plays happen, because I don't think he loses much for forcing.
And the thing is, this may also not just be on Maxwell, right? This needs to be team decisions, communication, warding, anticipating where you're going to be in a minute, anticipating where the waves are going to be in a minute. And also where your enemies are going to be. I mean, Joko was clearing out his bottom jungle, recalled, and made his way up top. While at the same time, Maxwell's completed that jungle item, picked himself up a null magic mantle and is returning to fish for opportunities here. Not a lot is available as Vitality have got the top and bottom towers. Not really overcommitting to mid lane. Steelback just wants to farm. 103 CS to 125. The Jin Tom Kench lane has bullied Steelback out of some CS.
But look at this from Joko, right? He realizes, look at how far Cabochard is pushed up. Look at where the blue buff is, and look at where we have vision. Joko is always moving in a way in which he's utilizing his laners. It's never just Cabo pushing up alone. It is Vitality pushing up to take this tower. And this is why we really need to praise Vitality, because this is what they did in Game 1. They're repeating it in Game 2, and it's not snowballing them kills, but it is netting them so much map control.
It really is 3-1, but like that, this is the playbook. We know Vitality can do this.
Yeah.
You know, they did it in the previous game. And for Vitality, it's the next step we need to see.
Oh, we're going crocodile hunting.
Who's being delivered? What did? And Maxlaw. Cabochard. That was very well played, Maxlaw, this time around. Leaps onto the blasting cone to get rid of the escape path.
I could see him jumping onto it, and as he would do it, he's just waving at Nukeduck, being like, there goes your escape, bye now. But great collapse from Roccat. They realize that the Joko has already left the building, and so they want to try and punish Cabo before he's able to get back to his tower. And now Roccat are utilizing this to get some deep vision in, and they're now setting up for a tier 1 in the top lane.
Yeah, Widid should just get ran down here. Look at that damage, slow just from the petrifying gaze. Not quite sure what Widid is doing to turn around from that one. Felt a tad late, but there's a re-engage. This time Maxlaw's used his ultimate. Curtain Call hasn't tagged anyone yet until the 3rd and 4th shot. AOD gets sniped from downtown.
Well, Roccat are able to return the support kill, but for Widid, that's an isolated death. That's going to blemish his record, and is not going to be too happy about that. Regardless, can Roccat get themselves the top tier 1 tower? Nukeduck is pushing down the mid. Look at Joko looking for a potential dive.
Flash is not available just yet. It's a few seconds away. Miasma's going to prevent any sort of response. Very early cleanse from Betsy. The death ray as well. The Chaos Storm continues to chase. One more zap. Not going to be enough. But the tower and the bowler, they root Nukeduck in place. Trades 1 for 1.
So much mid-jungle action happening in the middle lane. It is both mids that end up going down. And that's only because Betsy, his focus was on trying to kill Joko, whereas Nukeduck was like, well, I'm going to kill you, mate. He ends up getting that kill, but it's such a swift response from Maxwell, jumping out from the brush. Nukeduck had no vision to preempt that. He did have his flash, but unfortunately for him, it was not enough. So many mammals killing each other, or animals even killing each other in this game.
It's like a zoo.
It is.
In here today. But it's a zoo that Vitality want to take control of. They're 1,500 gold up, looking for another tower. This would be the 4th of the game because they got that inner tower in the top lane. I want to look at Steelback's build. He's opted for the Iceborne Gauntlet this time around. A little bit of discussion around, you know, type of itemization versus team comp. Do you like this into Rengar, Gnar, Jin? A little bit of armor, a little bit of
I mean,
kites.
it's always good to be able to kite, but I think the main reason he's doing it is for the Rengar threat. In terms of actual team fight damage, it's not bad, but I think the Trinity Force would have had a better mid-game spike, which would have better synergized. But we can see here, it's just very unfortunate for Cabochard because his laner just went back to base.
I love that. Maxwell flying.
Yeah.
Crikey, that's a big crocodile.
Go on, mate. Don't want to give him that blast cone, no.
Denies the blast cone, gets the kill. And that was where Roccat started to turn this one around. They get their second tower of the game, evening back up in the mid-game, and it just feels like the same game all over again.
Right?
It really, really does. And it is a bit of a rarity to see kind of the same style, despite even different champions and different sides of the map, for goodness sake.
The big difference here, though, is that the Ryze is stronger in terms of being able to split push because of his ultimate, which enables versus the Cassio, yes. So that enables the Ryze to get back to fights quicker. It allows plays to happen a little bit faster. But in terms of 1v1 power, there are very few on the Roccat liner that can go up again. Now, Maxwell, he got caught out a lot, moving through his own jungle without proper vision, but this time he's respecting it. He has Wadid there to keep him safe.
Yeah, of course, AOD takes that solo ride on the blast cone. Joko stepped out. Noomtech now was hanging around just down south. There's a couple of Vitality members waiting in the wings. Can't quite see who's sitting with Noomtech there as he starts to back out as Cabo stays in the mid lane. So now we've got this awkward moment with 5 towers are down and teams need to start pushing their vision and start playing around other objectives. Good cocoon from Joko. Gonna buy some time for Cabochard to flash in for the stun, and Betsy gets taken down. Ends up being a 1-on-3.
Good punish from Vitality. Betsy, he handles some of the spells. He should have known. Well, he actually had pretty good vision control, and he actually wanted to move over and drop down a ward. He doesn't even get the ward down, so I actually have no idea why Betsy was there. He ends up getting punished. Now look at Vitality.
All right, 5-man stack in the mid lane. Vitality looking to take down the tower. Foxy has got absolutely no Narbar, so he can't get that ulti down. Steelback gets tagged by the boomerang, and a couple of shots from the curtain call. Vitality don't get the tower, but Roccat are still scrambling to defend.
But remember, the primary wave fit of Roccat is dead. Vitality, with the 5 members, should be able to take this tier 1 down.
All right, starting to move in. Steelback gets a couple of auto attacks onto the tower. The minion wave still alive, and that reduces the resistances. Vitality get their 4th tower of the game, still in control, still dictating the tempo. Now, how do they force more objectives? It helps when Roccat walk through their jungle and walk into you, right? Yep. But Vitality are not going to get those opportunities every single time, or they shouldn't get those opportunities. So let's see if they can set up those flanks. We'll talk about how they do that in a moment, because Vitality now, they just allow Roccat to counter push.
But I love that you talked about the flanks, right? Because just look at the bottom lane and look at the top lane. Yes, Vitality, you get that pick. You want to take down that mid tower. However, you weren't paying attention to your side lanes. You weren't looking at what else was happening on the map. And while you push towards that objective, Roccat is actually drawing pressure on both side lanes. Vitality, they have to respond to those minion waves. They cannot afford to lose all that gold and experience to the towers, along with taking all that tower damage. So that frees up the 5-man unit of Roccat to just walk down mid, take down the tower, and even out on objectives.
Yeah, and that's just going to allow Roccat again to move into this mid game a little bit more comfortably. For yet another time, Vitality vision inside Rockat's jungle is a little deeper, is getting pushed further and further. Although Joko and Cabo decided to back off. They used that Scry's Bloom, get a little bit of information on those control wards before backing out. But I can see 2 wards actually, one in the river by Dragon Pit, that might be the Scuttle, it is, and then another one by the Wolf Camp here for Roccat. So a teleport opportunity if Foxy can find one.
And with Baron now live, a lot of vision will start to be set up towards that side as Nuke getting caught out.
Oh, he is indeed. Sidestep from Max Law. Very well predicted. Flash forward as well, though. A little bit sloppy towards the end, but they get the kill. And Roccat even out the kills.
Now, a bit of deep vision was invested from Roccat into the top side to be able to get this pick, and they're actually able to punish Nukeduck as he's moving up towards the top lane, or moving away from the top lane after just pushing it in towards. But now, Vitality looking for other places to push.
They are, and Vitality need to look for something to regain some control in this game. And Vedia's last pick, counter pick opportunity for Vitality, they go Brand, right? Caught us by surprise a little bit. I don't think it's been worth it.
It hasn't really had much of an impact yet, right? Like, we saw a great map movement from Vitality to get themselves that tier 1 tower on the bottom, but they were actually losing lane. What Did was playing so beautifully into the Brand, utilizing the cooldowns of that Brand, as we see now. If
Pyroclasm bounces between these two guys and kills them, maybe we'll be wrong, but there you go. Cocoon countered by Tahm Kench.
Like, there's so much pick potential in Vitality that gets denied by this Tahm Kench pick. The Brand you'd think would be picked for lane, but even then Vitality couldn't take a big advantage in that laning.
They lost it.
I mean, yeah, so it's like, I'm still doubting on the Brand pick. I think there's a lot of potential behind it. I don't think it's great into the Tahm Kench. But on top of that, Vitality aren't really right now setting up for team fights, which is where I feel that Brand has the most value. Okay,
he doesn't have a lot of damage yet. If you look through the items, Amplifying Tome and Ruby Crystal to go along with the support item. 2 item spikes for most across the board. Man Immune for Steelback, as well as that Iceborne Gauntlet. Edge of Night, Ghostblade for Hyanin. Double in the mid lane, nearly double in the top lane. Roccat will get themselves an Ocean Drake. Correction, Cloud Drake. As they at least pick up like an uncontested objective. But Roccat, we've talked a lot about how Vitality can't necessarily engage because of the Tahm Kench and the Cocoon. How do Roccat do it? We know that, you know, Rengar can run people down and you've got the Tahm Kench Gnar, but is that the only options?
Well, Roccat do have a lot of teamfight power, naturally, because they have Victor and they have Gnar, but it's very much around playing with the Gnar bar, right? And if they, so far we're yet to see them effectively do that, and a part of that is because of their inability to get deep vision and then force a flanking play. We haven't yet seen Wadid gobble up Faxi, use the ultimate to get in behind Vitality and then force that fight. And I think it's because Roccat, they haven't actually had much control of the game. Remember, again, early, they suffered a pretty significant deficit. They haven't felt like they've had much control. And Roccat just seem a little bit hesitant to really press that go button. They're a team that's quite reserved, and they're just patient. And without the Sivir, I think that they're waiting for Vitality to make that mistake, or they're the ones that are looking to either set up around Baron or Dragon, where they can then bait Vitality into a fight, and that's where they can look to start something.
All right, this time around, go button was pushed.
Here we go.
Wadid and Hyanin are going to look for steal back. Maxlaw's also jumped in, finds a little bush to keep leaping. Lot of damage onto Maxlaw. Wadid devours him to buy time. Faxi going to cancel that teleport, in fact, as Cabochard is now cutting off Roccat. It's a 4-on-5 until Faxi can arrive. But Vitality unable to find anything more. Their team doesn't have the engage.
But it's good to see from Roccat. They're trying to force the fight. They feel they're strong enough to try and make things happen. But they've actually conceded all this vision around the Baron. And they have no idea that Vitality's doing it.
They do not. Curtain Call and Abyssal Scepter were used. Roccat making their way to the river. It might be too late. Joko's getting dropped down. Luckily, no more auto attacks. And Joko's going to be able to escape with his life. No vision either. I thought Deadly Flourish might have been able to snipe him, but not today.
Roccat got so lucky because Joko was too low on health and Nukeduck was too low on mana for Vitality to be able to finish that objective. But the decision behind it was so good because Roccat had no idea. They had no ultimates. They tried to force that fight, and then they weren't able to capitalize on anything. They couldn't get any kills. They didn't even force very much out of Vitality. And that resulted in Vitality having a great opportunity to take the objective, but they're not quite able to get it.
No, unfortunately not. And that means Vitality's still in an even game. 25 minutes in. 1 dragon apiece. And, of course, even on towers, basically. Maxwell's going to jump all the way to that control ward. A tad over-aggressive, bit off way more than he can chew. Luckily gets saved by Wadid and the Devour. Chaos Storm sends Vitality running. Nukeduck's got a flash if he can use it for the Petrifying Gaze. And Hyanin trying to split up the fight. Betsy turns around with the Death Ray, and Joko, he manages to flash to safety. Follows from Roccat. Roccat now looking to push down the mid lane as Vitality they're looking to set up a flank.
Why won't anybody die? Quick shot. They keep trying to force these fights, but nobody ends up going down. But this could be the flank that Vitality are looking for.
It can indeed. Cabo's looking for a stun. Yarn's running away with his life. Nukeduck not going to be able to find the petrifying gaze just yet. It's Wadid that gets killed first, and Nukeduck gets away.
Still no Faxi ultimate. We're yet to see this team fighting power that Roccat have available. And it's just so close, back and forth, but without any hard crowd control coming out from either team. It is always just these close skirmishes, these close trades that are resulting in very few deaths.
Yeah, and Wadid doing so much work with Devour over and over, saving his teammates' lives. The tower on the mid lane takes 50% of its life away, and that's it. Roccat and Vitality, it is just kind of like that awkward first dance at your high school farewell. Just
hey, that was never awkward for me.
Tripping over one another a little bit and not finding the right moves.
Actually, I learned to waltz at a very young age. I had a very keen mother that wanted me to dance. My sister did ballet. She said, you must learn to waltz.
It is a very sort of like quite a posh British thing, isn't it? Like waltzing and whatnot.
I was actually teaching Deficio. But you can see here the collapse actually came down onto Maxlore. He had to invest a lot just to escape from this fight, and the response from Roccat is very good. But again, where is Faxi in all of this? He'd already used his teleport earlier on, so there is no big ultimate to suddenly swing the fight in their favor. Now, oh look, Mega Gnar's gone. The best Roccat can do is just chase, hopefully get a bit of damage down, but there's so much disengage from Vitality. You have the miasma from Nukeduck, you have all the flame damage from AOD. And at this point, you think, oh, this could be very good for Vitality. They can just get this great flank off. Roccat are being attacked from 3 sides. But then again, Wadid coming in so impactful, denying a lot of the damage, just soaking up for as long as he can, and he just ends up dying to the burn at the very end. But it was just such close back and forth all the time that neither team could really gain an edge.
What I love about that, it all started because Maxlore decided to jump onto a control ward, you know? That was the initiation.
Fighting over vision, that's what we love.
That was the initiation button for Vitality. Sensing they had an opportunity to jump onto Maxlore. He's got that thrill of the hunt down. Looking for targets. Nukeduck is being spotted out, and again I look at the inventory, again I see a plethora of control wards for Vitality, and Roccat not the greatest. Joko and Nukeduck fishing for options and ways to extend this lead.
Right now, both teams are just grouping up around the Baron. Their priority is let's get control, because one big fight is going to give us that objective, and then the other team will not be able to answer. Now, Vitality, they actually have full vision control of the Baron itself, and they've started this objective off.
Okay, more mana, HP.
So Roccat no?
And Spiderlings here for Nukeduck and Joko. AOD is at least playing zoning.
Roccat don't know.
Roccat haven't got a clue. Thrill of the Hunt was used, remember. AOD is going to start zoning, gets a good stun onto Maxlore. AOD's life will be lost, but Vitality get Baron. Nukeduck gets away. Oh, that was so close. We did. By the skin of his teeth missing, Nukeduck.
AOD dying for the good of the team. He bought time for Vitality to take down the Baron. And the great thing is, like, the Joko and Nukeduck had already tried this before, but Roccat had no idea that they weren't playing around it. They weren't playing at the potential risk of this 2-man Baron take. And this time, Nukeduck and Joko, they were full health, they had good vision control, and Roccat weren't prepared, so they end up losing this massive objective over to the side of Vitality.
Really important, especially because the primary wave clear tool for Roccat is a Victor. Magic damage on that AoE. Let's see if Cabo Shard's under any risk here. Foxy and Betsy not going to go for the push. They're just going to keep the wave at Cabo's tower.
But look at the setup from Roccat. There's a pushing wave up top. They have a 3-man unit in mid. They have Gnar still out trading this Renekton and keeping him pushed underneath this tower, which means the Roccat still have control over the map. They may have lost that Baron, but they get themselves an Ocean, and they're actually the ones hitting onto the towers of Vitality.
We're 30 minutes in. Vitality have Baron. Roccat had map control, now starting to get pushed back. Scaling, where do you prefer the scaling on which team comp, as we're now, you know, on the end towards Nexus? You'll have some time to think about it, as this was the cheeky Baron play.
Yeah. This is one of those replays where we just play by play. Oh, look at Nukeduck, he bangs into the Baron. But they had no vision, right? You could see the control ward, not long enough range to identify this was happening. Roccat weren't even suspicious, like, why is AOD in the river? I guess maybe he's just clearing out wards, like nothing to worry about. Ends up going down. But in terms of scaling, to go back to your question, I prefer Roccat scaling largely because of the Victor and the Gnar. but only in these big team fight scenarios, because in a 1v1, like, Renekton dumpsters over Jhin. He doesn't have the mobility to get out. Nukeduck is going to do so much single target damage if he's allowed to do so. So I'm just waiting for this big Gnar ultimate to really swing one of these fights in the favor of Roccat.
Well, Foxy needs to step up. We've not seen it this game. We've not seen him find a target into the wall in an impactful manner. And Betsy, on the other hand, with that Lichbane, Rylai's, Hexcore, he almost one-shot Joko. Now, maybe that's why Joko finishes GA. Got that one in his inventory now, along with the Dead Man's Plate, so a little bit more of a tanky Elise build, more than the AP. Curtain Call used to try and slow down or stop or make Vitality stutter when putting pressure on this tower, and it has done so for now, but the tower continues to go low, and Cabo continues to trade with Foxy in the bottom lane.
Roccat just doing what they can to hold the line for the time being. You can see the rest of GBM, the rest of Vitality sitting behind, supporting their team as Vitality slowly chipping away, but it's very difficult for them to actually siege. Low range on the Cassio, low range on the Ezreal. They want to try and use their poke to force Roccat back, but with so much wave clear on the Victor, with the poke coming out from Hyanan, it's making Vitality's life very difficult.
And there's no wards for Roccat to allow Foxy to teleport in behind. Look at the minimap. There's no way for Foxy to try to get in behind Vitality's siege. There's at least one being denied here by Nukeduck that he stood on top of, and with Baron wearing off, this might be the last minion wave. Decent cocoon onto Maxwell, no follow-up damage. The tower will go down in just a moment. Chaos Storm ticking away, Summoner heal used. Venomous Bite comes up from Joko, and the Death Ray follows as well. Again, nobody dies, but Vitality get their tower, and they marginally extend their lead. It's 3,000 gold. As long as they're playing the map game and not the 5v5 game, that is still an advantage, but obviously it gets negated when the team comp of Roccat can group up and work together.
Slow and steady does win the race, Trevor. However, it's not as exciting as if all the racers stabbed and shot each other in order to attain victory. And I feel like Vitality, it's smart from them not to try and force a 5v5, especially with the risk of Faxi, but there's so many windows to that. Like, we've talked a lot about how it's difficult for them. Why not just walk up with AOD and just be like, ulti, fire everywhere, to try and force them back, or just walk up with the miasma and rather than throw it underneath the turret, throw it behind the turret and be like, be gone, this will be my tower now. And they're all playing on the side of caution, which I understand, I respect, and it makes a lot of sense. And it's super valuable for them to get these wins as well. So you can, I really do respect why they are playing like this, but if you're a team that's looking to improve, if you're looking towards the future, these risky moves are some of the plays you have to take when you're playing such difficult compositions.
Yeah, and looking towards the future for Vitality, it's bouncing back here. If Vitality lose this game, they are still within a one series difference of Origin. You know, that's that safety buffer cuts in half. So there's a lot on the line here for Vitality. Taking a look at that Baron power play, it was more of a regain control of the game than necessarily push the lead. That's why the Baron power play is only 1,600 gold versus the league average of 3,800. And you touched on that fire behind the tower, be gone. I mean, Zyra was available this game. Would you have wanted to run Zyra into a Gnar and Rengar and Tom?
I think I just would have preferred a Karma. Like, I think Karma would have given you better lane setup. You would have had more pushing power. And I think that with the comp that you have, the 5-man speed up to just close the gap a little bit more, make it easier to land the miasma, the cocoon, get the Renekton in from a flank. Like, the Karma would have just given you a few more possible options.
It's also one of these things where you can see a pick that, a pick and how it works in scrims and training in the week is sometimes very different to how it performs on stage, where teams don't give you as many opportunities. All right, Maxloy is finally using Thrill of the Hunt quite aggressively. Got some support from Wadid and Betsy, but Joko's been able to escape around. Pillar of Flame comes up, AOD continuing to back away. He's got that Rylai's Crystal Scepter completed this time around, and that will give him some more utility. Vedius, 40 seconds to Elder Drake, 30 seconds to Baron. Split in terms of what do you want to prioritize, because neither team has got great control in either area. There's some wards for TPs around the Baron pit, and the Dragon is completely clear.
For now, The main objective for Roccat is to not allow Vitality to do that sneaky two-man Baron. Ooh, they're actually just going to throw out ultimates.
They are indeed. Teleport coming down from Cabo Shard. Not been equalized by Foxy. Pyroclasm bounces and then fizzles. That's a defensive flash from Maxwell. Here comes Foxy. Where's the Narbar? The rage needs to build up. Continues to throw out those autos. Gets a boomerang. Hyper's not going to get procced. And again, a tense, close fight where nobody dies.
So just Roccat throwing out a couple of ultimates, trying to dissuade Vitality. But you can see tensions are rising.
I can feel them.
You can feel them? That might just be me hugging you too much. I'll stop, I promise.
Yes, you should. It's a little awkward at the moment. But Vitality and Roccat, they just can't find ways to make their team fights work. And it's actually one of these like sort of beautiful examples of lacking hard engage, unreliable soft engage. And it just gives you these awkward fights where nobody can get an advantage.
I love the term soft engage. It's almost like when you shake someone's hand, you just stroke it afterwards. You know, it's just like, I'm gonna softly engage upon you. But you're obviously illustrating with these kind of engages, they just throw out a couple of abilities. Now Joker's in trouble.
He is indeed. Repel buys enough time for Vitality to save him. There's not enough trouble for Roccat to punish. And that means Roccat still trying to play around the Baron. Okay, Cabo Shard used his teleport, right? So despite wards on the left-hand side of the minimap, Roccat are not at threat of being flanked just yet.
Oh, the Narbar is up. Vitality want to wait for that to dissipate. They actually have the ability to push down mid, but again, look at the side waves. You can see Roccat, they have a big minion wave building up top. They have a minion wave building up bottom. Vitality, they're grouping up so much in the mid that it's actually allowing Roccat to engage once again.
All right, let's try this again and find out if anyone can die. Joko's GA has popped. That's the first time. Following Nuke, I'm looking for a petrifying gaze. It needs to be game impacting. He stuns Betsy. Betsy's down. Only for a GA so far. Now Foxy's in trouble, looking to flash away. Meganar's about to time out. For the first time in what feels like forever, somebody has died.
Betsy ends up losing his life. He gets a little bit too close to the wall, and Nuke takes advantage of it. But what will either team gain off the back of this? If you're Vitality, you could look towards that Elder Dragon, but instead you're just going to choose to back off. Cabo can't TP in. Joko ended up losing his Guardian Angel. But it's just another skirmish in the mid lane. What are they actually fighting for? Quick shot. Just look at the setup right now. Vitality, they're pushing down mid. Roccat, they try to force a fight here, but they're forcing Vitality into a choke point. They think that, hey, if we win this fight, maybe we can get ourselves a Baron. But it's so difficult because Faxi isn't there. He TP's in later on. At the very start of this fight, he actually went back to base. But now, the Baron has been started up once again.
Oh, Roccat now looking to stop this Vitality Baron. Cabo and Maxlaw dancing and diving there on the side. Petrifying Gaze stuns up nobody. Redemption's going to come down here for Roccat. That'll heal them up. Baron did not fully reset. Curtain Call is going to send Vitality running for their lives, and Nuke is very, very low. Boulder Toss, unable to connect with anybody, and Wadid already used his Abyssal Voyage. Now all of a sudden, Roccat swaps places. Roccat, they're the ones on the Baron.
Look at Nuke. He doesn't have the HP to really stick around for this fight. Roccat see an opportunity, they're going to go for it.
VDS, this is Roccat preparing themselves for trouble. This is the second time Baron has started.
Joko.
They want to make it a double. Joko wants to flash over the wall, wants to protect his team from relegation. Where's the spot? He does it! Joko gets the Baron. He gets dunked in the process, and Vitality stay alive.
Oh my word, Joko, the hero for Vitality, steals away the Baron. Everything that they needed. But Roccat, you go for the 50-50 smite, you play the gamble game and you lose. And now Vitality, they want to keep chasing.
It's a 4-on-4, but Baron buff is on the side of Vitality. It's their second this game. The first one didn't necessarily cement them in the lead, but with Baron and Elder, this may be uncontested. How quickly can Betsy get in range? Making his way up, Baron's down to a third. Vitality are peeling away, and this game has just gone from a slow-paced fight to all-out action. Caboshot and Steelback get tagged by the boulder toss. Nobody's rooted by the flush, but look at that Chaos Storm. The first tick was massive. Flash away from Steelback. He's trying to get out of range. Elder Dragon changing teams. It doesn't know who is enlisted for. Foxy goes down. This Gnar has had no impact. But Maxlaw is back and alive, coming in with the smite available, secured by Roccat. Elder Dragon goes to Roccat. Caboshot's GA has popped. Betsy's going down again. That's what started this whole thing. That's what's going to end this whole thing.
So Vitality used a minute and a half of their Baron, fighting over the Elder Dragon, waiting for both junglers to come back into the fray. It is Roccat that net themselves that objective, and now Vitality are looking to push.
How did AOD just get sniped by Hyanin?
Oh man,
He's a scorch mark. That scorch mark has had more of an impact than the brand thus far. Maxlaw's now looking for a new tech. Why not? Just throw everything at them. Maxlaw's unable to get the kill, but a devour from Roccat gives him a few more seconds. Joko and Steelback onto the inhibitor turret. That will open up the base. Caboshot also wants to get a turret down bottom. Roccat looking for some sort of engage. Foxy's teleport's not available for a few more seconds. 15 to be specific. And now he's looking for more. No inhibitor, but they will get themselves at least... Oh! Nuke Duck again! Bola is sidestep, but Hyanin is spat out over the wall. Twice this game, Nuke Duck escapes with the empowered recall.
This game has gone from a classical, elegant waltz into a spicy and heated salsa. Everything is so back and forth. There is so much action, Quickshot. It's exploded into a game of passion. And what was a Baron throw into an Elder Dragon fight, which went on for way longer than it should have. You can see the Vitality, they want to try and rush it down, but the positioning of Betsy and the use of the curtain call is enough to dissuade Vitality from really committing to that objective. Faxi comes in from the flank. Again, though, he fails to get the Mega Gnar ultimate off. Look, he comes in a Mini Gnar form. Faxi, what are you hoping to achieve through that? You could have done more through the zoning power, waited for Maxlaw to join the fight once again, and it just becomes a race now between which jungler can get there first. Steelback goes back, Maxlaw joins, and he doesn't even get it. It's the second proc of the E from Betsy that actually secures it.
Vedius, while all of this replay is going on, yes, Vitality then proceeded to take down 2 inhibitor turrets. Roccat were able to push back at their 5th tower of the game in the mid lane, and Roccat now need to defend. It is a 5-on-5 scenario. And the team fight strength of this Gnar is just not showing up.
We haven't seen the Gnar ultimate once this game.
Either Foxy is just not comfortable on this. His build is maybe a little bit more catered to split push as well. Maybe you can...
Maybe, but the reality is that when you're using this Gnar, you have to have good setup and good communication. Foxy should be coming into these fights with about a yellow rage bar. That is when he should be joining, so that during the fight he can build it up, and then he has the threat of the ultimate, the flash engage tool that he can use onto Nuke, onto Steelback, onto AOT. But we're yet to see that he's always TPing in with an empty rage bar. He's always TPing in when his rage bar is just emptied. And it's just going to show this lack of communication within Roccat and this poor lack of setup, that exactly what we saw in game 1.
All right, so that means that Roccat are still clawing from behind. 5,000 gold down at 45 minutes. If you go down the itemization, Steelback very comfortable as he's going to sidestep the curtain call. You can hear Maxlaw growling and grumbling, but not going to find an opportunity, not going to find a target. Despite Foxy having the teleport advantage, Roccat unable to pressure further. There's just a single GA for Joko now as I round out the itemization discussion. Vitality, now it's up to them, right? I mean, it has been up to them for a while because they've kind of been in control most of the game, fixing some of the problems that they made in game number 1.
The thing with Vitality is they actually have a very difficult to execute composition, right? Because you've got Ezreal, who with this build kind of wants to kite and play back, and the Cassio is very much about skirmishes, and while in teamfight she has a lot of value, it's difficult because of how short range she is. So every time she tries to get close to the fight, the gravity field from Betsy comes down. You have the zoning of not only the ultimate, but also the death rate too. Elise at this point in the game really struggles to have the same sort of value as she did early game, especially with a full tank build. And Renekton's just kind of fallen off. If he can get onto Hyanin, yes, he's definitely a threat, but Hyanin's been so far out of this fight that he's never really going to do that without an effective TP. So they've drafted themselves such a difficult to play composition, and a lot of their advantages have come from sneaky plays, like stealing away the Baron, Roccat overextending into a fight, Roccat getting caught out of position. But when they're in this neutral zone, the only options that they really have are just sit and farm, sit and farm. The problem for Roccat is they're too afraid to be proactive. They're too afraid to try and force things. Like Faxi has his Vegan art right now. Why isn't he TPing to this ward? Why aren't they trying to make this flank happen? And it's just this level of decisiveness from Roccat that we're really yet to see this.
Yeah, not working out. Maxwell gets caught by the Cocoon in the pit. Steal back with an aggressive arcane shift forward. Wadid is there to save his life. Faxi's about to time out. Actually, he used a gnaw. He used it. We missed it, but he used it. It's on cooldown, and it was to try and deal with Cabo shot. But I think it is important to note at this stage in the game, with these sort of items, Faxi's having a little bit more control in this side lane and is putting the inner turret under pressure.
Well, he's always going to have the advantage in this 1v1 against Renekton. He's just going to dive.
Well, is indeed. Gets the Dominus at the very least. And then is forced to back away. 2 seconds until Baron. Let's do the dance again, shall we? Put on your blue suede shoes and let's see what beat we're dancing to, right?
Very
what
right.
Was it?
Yes.
Salsa or... Can't remember the other one you said earlier. Joker's going to be in trouble. The waltz. This feels a little bit more salsa-ish. Teleport coming down for Faxi. When a fight could break out, not going to work out.
Indeed, with the Victor engage.
Going to spit Betsy over. Nukeduck's petrifying gaze was fired very early. Nobody kept chasing.
I love that from Wadid. That's so good. Just like, hey, we need a way to start a fight. Victor, get in my belly. Let's go. They can't find it though. Nukeduck did throw his ultimate out in defense, but now Roccat are in a good position to go for the Baron. Look, Joko very low on HP. Nukeduck doesn't have the ult. Steal back, no ultimate. Cabo, no ultimate.
Joko's stolen a Baron once already, and he's got a Guardian Angel to play with. Faxi gets sent into the pit. Repel's available. Up in the air. Joko's looking to engage along with the rest of Vitality. Flash is there too. Into the pit.
He's in the pit.
They swap. Joko's still alive. Guardian Angel's going to get popped. Who gets the Baron? Still backs down. Roccat get the Baron as Joko respawns. He goes down too. Roccat regain control.
Finally, Roccat find a fight that they have so desperately wanted. Faxi was sitting over the wall trying to deny Joko entrance into the pit, but Vitality was so focused on stealing away the Baron that they weren't paying attention to what Roccat was doing in the rest of the fight. This is a prime opportunity for Roccat to fully utilize their composition. They have the Victor, they have the Jhin, they have all these tools in their kit, and as Vitality walk towards them, it becomes so difficult to close that gap. And now with the Baron buff, Roccat are in a prime position to take this series.
5 on 3. Roccat can look to finish this one off. They get the inhibitor turret. They take the inhibitor as well. 25 seconds before Joko is alive, and Steelback not available for a while. Snoopduck's just trying to buy time as best as he can. Those noxious blast speed boosters allowing him to sidestep. What did in the 5-man Roccat stack on the front line. Faxi got Nukeduck at last. Cover shot comes in from behind. He's trying to slow down and stop this fight. There is a GA available and Steelback throwing down the autos. He's got a lot of damage to work with. AOD shoots out the pyroclasm. It kills nobody. Pillar of Flame bounces up once again, and Roccat remain in a 5-man push. This is for the game. This is for the series, and this is to get another win in their group. Roccat now backing away, fighting and focusing on Cabo. He's down. There was no GA available as Joko repels up into the air. We've got to keep our eyes on Steelback and how much mana he's got available. Steelback goes down as soon as we look at him. Vitality, there's no one left to defend.
Look at the blinking red health bars on Roccat. They may be low, but they are not down and out. Roccat, they're gonna look to end the game, and they're gonna look to take the series.
Joko is killed, and the Nexus will be the next target. Roccat defeat Vitality for a 2-0 week.
Oh, we had a lot of back and forth that series. Things looked so good for Vitality once again in the early game. They had so much map control. They were playing such great League of Legends. But then, as you rightly said, Quickshot, that playbook ran out of pages. They were struggling to know what to do with that advantage. And again, Roccat, they just scaled, they scaled, they scaled. But where were the plays from Roccat? I mean, we can we can praise both teams, but we also have to highlight the criticisms. And the reality is, Vitality drafted a very difficult-to-play composition that they knew how to use in the early game, but couldn't transition into mid and late. Whereas Roccat had a weak early game, but they transitioned nicely into the mid and late, but then didn't really know how to use it there either.
And I think if you look at the implications here, obviously Vitality were able to bounce back in that very difficult situation with the remade series against Giants, and Vitality with the win were looking more comfortable in their group above Origin. They had a 2-game buffer that's now been killed by 1, right? Still 1 game touching distance. Roccat, on the other hand, they now are 1 series ahead of Giants.
Yep.
And again, it has been a difficult week. It's one that will be talked about for a while, but it's so crucially important for Roccat to get these 2 series wins. It's their last series of cross-group play, and now they start replaying the teams within their group. And for Roccat, they're hoping and hoping Giants lose tomorrow as well, looking safer in that 4th spot. That's what they're looking at.
Yep. And this is the value of being able to play against these lower teams during the cross-group play, and that Roccat versus Giants game is going to be super important few weeks down the line as well.
Yes.
There are so many, but the fact that Roccat get themselves a win here, as Reddy said, is monumental for them. It puts them 1 step closer to securing that safe spot in Group A.
And it means Vitality are 1 step closer to the edge. For more on the series win by Roccat, let's send it back to the analyst desk.
They're not about to break. Thanks, Quickshot. So with that win, Roccat, much needed win, spectacular in terms of what they gained with it. And just as a stat, the last time that they won versus 2 opponents back-to-back was week 9 of 2015 summer. And we were all the way in best of 1s there, so it's doubly difficult for them now. But we just can't underestimate what a relief it must be, Perks, for Roccat now to have that game in the bag.
I think it's a really big relief for them. Like, they just probably escaped the relegation zone, or like they're still like somewhere in it, but they have to win. If they win against Giants, they're out. Yeah. So it's like this is really relieving for them, and yeah, you could just see how happy the players are. Like Vadil was.
He's always happy though. He's like always laughing, but now he was extremely happy.
Yeah, that helps at Roccat standings. Also helps at some of the Group B standings as well. Unicorns lock playoffs because of that. But I think when you focus in on Roccat, it was a little slower perhaps in general, but I think now you see them jumping because of the game difference, because of the series win above Giants, who obviously play tomorrow over against Origin. So still a lot to play with, but Roccat, they have made improvements, and that's fair to say. Coming into this week, you know, one of these teams was going to look a lot better coming out of it. If you can pick up 2 wins on the week, Roccat looking better doing it as well.
And I mean, you can disagree with me here, but I think that what I saw from Roccat is a lot of just decisiveness. Even if they didn't play it correctly, I saw them going for fights all the time. I saw them going for Barons all the time, although it was kind of an entire back and forth in this game for Vitality as well. But overall, I think they had more of a trigger-happy feeling in the games.
I would agree with that statement. I think it's pretty fair to say that they were actually like decisive team this series compared to what we've seen before from them. They actually went for the Nashers, they started Nashers, they danced around Nasher, they got Nasher stolen, but they got next Nasher, and I think they've played like better as a team this series than they have ever before. So it was a good improvement for them. Yeah.
I think you can see a couple of difficulties with decisiveness around the NAS specifically, but that's a unique pick to try and make it work. But Roccat ultimately get the win. Looking at their opponents, Vitality, they've made good improvements in the early game. You know, they currently are ranked last for teams that take towers pre-15, which is kind of what you'd expect from a team. But if you only look at their last 5 games against Giants and against Roccat, they are basically ranked 2nd comparatively. The only team taking towers faster than them is Misfits. So if they can continue to take towers in this early game, have a solid early game, Vitality maybe still have enough to
disagree though,
with.
because I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding that they did it here and they then dropped the ball later, right? So, I mean, it's double-edged, as you say.
It's very funny because there's been a lot of discussion recently about whether you want to do the early game, whether you want to train the late game. I mean,
we're not going to get into that now.
I think for Vitality's sake, we're seeing some improvements in the early game. So regardless of whether you think it's good or not, I still think for Vitality that is a benefit.
Improvement is improvement, but it's Roccat that closes it out here 2-0. And Quickshot is with Rockat's Wadid and Hjarne to hear more about their series win over Vitality.
Thank you very much, Shocks. Yes, I am joined here by Hjarne and Wadid. First of all, congratulations on the series win. Congratulations on a 2-0 week. Hjarne, let's start with this series. What happened in the early game? It seemed like Joko was destroying you guys.
Basically, they have Renekton and Elise, which is really strong for top lane. And we just tried to survive with our top laner, but he got 1 kill basically, but he did not snowball it out of control, I think, too much. And we just stalled out the game and tried to get Victor really, really strong, around 6 items. And same for Jhin, it's really strong late game. So we were just confident if we just stall out the game, we can win later on like fights and stuff. So yeah, pretty much it.
It definitely looked that way. You played Tom Kench that game. AOD played Brand. Were you surprised by that? What did you think of the Brand pick?
Yeah, actually I was surprised a bit, but it's fine because Tom Kench is the most good pick at melee champion. So I can just, I think I can stand the Karma pick like something that like May champion, but Brand, I'm a bit surprised, but I can dodge the skill, you know. I have Korean mechanics, so yeah.
It definitely showed. You guys won the lane in game number 2. A few days ago, you guys played Origin, and it was very long. I actually shoutcasted that series and had a lot of fun with it. What was it like playing that long, you know, 75 minutes, 58 minutes, and then being so good in game 3? You know, now that you look back, how did it feel?
You know, that was a deathmatch, yeah. So we just really, really want to win because the first chance to win, actually. So we just keep focus on winning. So we don't want to get just some like hard pressure. We don't want to just some throwing game. So we just keep focus on the late game. So that's why I think. And the late game, just like game 2 and 3, our coach says, just do it. You can do it. You're more better than the Origin. So we just make it. So I
mean, game 3 especially, I think you won in like 31 minutes. Hyonin, how do you go from game 1 and 2 that took so long and that felt so passive to obliterating them in game 3? Like, what changes?
Pretty much the first game was just I throw 6 ultis to try to steal objectives because we never won a force, right? It was really boring. Like I did not even realize it was 71 minutes, right? Like it felt like it was like 30 minutes. So like when you're in the game, it doesn't feel that long because you're just focusing the whole time, right? So the third game was like it felt really quick, obviously after the first game, I guess. But I guess we just had better early game, the third game. Like we were more confident to do plays and play more aggressive. So that's why I think.
Just 2 more questions here. Hyonin, looking forward now, obviously you're setting yourselves up to aim for that 4th place position to at least be safe. What needs to absolutely happen for you to earn that position?
I think we just need to keep on improving. I think we just need to beat Giants, I think, and then we're in a really good spot. But I want to beat other teams as well, obviously, so we just need to keep on practicing, basically.
All right, one last question. On stage, Misfits and H2K, they're about to do battle. Who do you think will win in the matchup?
Yeah, actually, I love both supporters like Che and me, Ignar. He's 2 guys, really good supporter. I just looking for I love both teams, so I don't know.
You have to pick one. Then I'll let you go. No?
Team Roccat.
Okay, there we go. I'll take that one. Guys, thank you so much for the interview. Congratulations on winning this week. We're going to go to an ad break, and when we come back, H2K versus Misfits. Being delivered. Wadid and Maxwell. Cabo shot. That was very well played, Maxwell, this time around.
Make him off the wall. Nice.
Good stun onto Maxwell. AOD's life will be lost, but Vitality get Baron. Protects his team from relegation. There's the space. Joko gets the Baron.
It's fine, guys. Just keep focused. Finish right now. The Elise is dead. I got it. Nice. Cassio is here. Focus Elise. Nice. We can have. Here we go. Hype. There we go. Finally.
Roccat defeat Vitality for a 2